So search engine marketing, how does that work? What is that all about? Search engine, just some high level here again, because we'll go through this in the next workshop. The search engine optimization basically looks at a website and says, okay, what detail within here, how do I go about categorizing the detail that's in here to make sure that when someone runs a search, it comes back with the highest probability of generating or positioning my business at the top of that search. That's valuable. If you're just building your website and you have the opportunity to tie search engine optimization into what you're doing, it makes good sense to try and do this, because any way that you push your website up to the top of the search criteria and below that paid section, okay, the first 2 or 3 and on the skyscraper there, those are all paid. Any way that you can do that organically makes a lot of sense. So there's some value there. And I used to say in discussions that I had with people when the internet first started, it used to be a mandate that you had a business card. When you went on a business call, it was a mandate that you had a business card. I don't think I give business cards anymore to people, because primarily you give them your website and all the information they need to know about you. They either get from the domain and your email address, or they get it directly from your website. So there is some value to that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to go back and start from scratch. You don't want to do that. Those are big dollars associated with that. But from the search engine optimization standpoint, if you can tap into somebody who understands how to do that with proper AdWords and keywords, it can be very relevant and very meaningful. Okay? Now, how might you use that? Well, there's a bunch of services sites out there now paying inclusion. So those are the ones that are at the top of that search criteria or in the skyscraper. Well, why are they there? Because people are buying keywords, and that's what they're searching on. When a keyword is searched on, their information is brought back. And there's a cost associated with that, and that cost is not necessarily high, again, so long as you're driving the relevant people to your website as a result of that. That is a lead. And what's most important here is if you have a website that you're trying to drive traffic to, you want to make sure that you've got some way of capturing the information of that individual coming to the site. Having a website company tell you, hey, you've got a great amount of clicks and all these hit rates, that is nothing unless you know who's come there, why they came there, and what the point of relevance was for them to come there. It's meaningless. It looks good on people's portfolio and for other companies, but for your business, unless you know why the person was there and you've got a relevant way to communicate back with them, did they give you the email address or have they given you some kind of contact information so you can connect with them? There's not a lot of value associated with that. So I would caution you to watch out for that too. Contextual advertising. This is starting to become pretty popular now. There's actually a bunch of companies associated with this where you start putting in your question into Google or whatever search engine you're using, and as you're typing your question in, things are already popping up on the page. Excuse me, same type of approach. Value associated with that. If what you're doing is unique and there's a way to drive that, there's some value associated with going through that process perhaps. But make sure that if you're driving people and activity to your site, you've got a way to capture that. Okay? Any questions so far?
You mentioned Facebook.
Yeah.
4 or 5 people like you.
Yeah.
What are 2 or 3 techniques to get more people to your Facebook account? Everybody out there is asking people, like me.
Yeah.
And you've got to set yourself apart.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good question. The question was, and I'm repeating this just for our camera, not because I think anybody didn't hear it, but how do you get people to come to a Facebook page? And the answer to that is, there's a lot of companies out there that are driving different strategies for Web 2.0, but the easiest way to do this kind of stuff, and here's the other thing, on pretty much every advertisement you might see now, you see at the bottom of it, Facebook, Twitter, and right, on every ad. Now the reason that they're doing that is people are interested in that. The Wall Street Journal had a big big article, an expose on a company named Rapleaf in San Francisco. What they were doing was they were actually pulling information from social media. They knew everything about you and who you were connected to. And so why that was valuable is they were able to go to Toyota and say, listen, we've got 15,000 people that we know are in Facebook that are Toyota friends. And they extrapolate out to 150,000 people. Would you like to market to them? Okay, so that's how it's done on the automated side. They got hit by the Justice Department for privacy invasion, and all of that stuff's being sorted out. But how do you do it? Well, you do it by depending upon the type of company that you are. If you've got a storefront where people are coming in, encourage them to sign up. Encourage them to sign up for something that's not going to cost a whole lot of money. perhaps a 5% discount or something like that the next time they come in. The more people that you get signing up to your Facebook page, the better off it is that you can start communicating with those people and have them then in turn bring their friends in. If you have a small coffee shop, you might give your friends a coupon for them to pass out to their other friends. And what it is it's an ambassador network. You end up advocating that out and pushing that across the breadth of the lines. It depends on your type of company. And if afterward, if you want to ask me about that, I'm happy to share with you a couple of ideas that are very specific. We have another question?
Yeah, you said that when people go to your website, you need to get their information.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that?
Okay, so the question here was if you drive people, you're effective. You've driven somebody to a website, how do you get their information? Usually you want to have something on, there's a couple of ways, okay? The easiest way to do it is to have some type of basic registration page. We'll send you, again, be creative. We'll send you some information or we'll send you a discount, give us your email address. You want to try, if they've made the attempt to come to your website, you want to try and determine who they are because you want to open up a line of communication with them. And maybe it's a question of as they're on the page, you just throw a pop-up and say, depending again on your company. What type of company do you have?
Roofing company.
All right, roofing. So perhaps it's like, would you like a free, no obligation inspecting of your roof? And I'm just throwing this off the top of my head. If so, just give us your email address. And then you communicate back with them and you immediately have the website send them an email that says, it's free, no obligation, and guess what? If you act within the next 30 days, we're going to give you a 10% discount. Or something like that. Something that's meaningful. And in order for you to take that 10% discount, please give us a bunch of information on yourself. Who you are, what's your address. You want to know the next thing I'd do? After I actually had them and I went on that investigation and if I did the inspection and I did it, I'd ask them sign 10 other people up. And oh, by the way, if you sign 10 people up, here's something else for you. The easiest, it's not like you're going to go back and redo their roof again, but there might be something else that's relevant that you can get them to pass your name out to other folks. That's viral, that's social media. That's how I would do that. Okay? Does that, and again, after this, I'm happy to give you a bunch of other thoughts on that. Anybody that, I'll be here for a while. If I can help anybody with that, I'm happy to do so. It's a little hard when you throw these things in a general perspective, but in very specific instances, I can come up with usually a couple of ways to go about doing that. And then the real question is, what do you want to use as the offer? And I'll get into that in a minute.